Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. We're going to be jumping back into the SCP universe here with the Exploring series, and being that, Space Brain 2's come out, been playing through that, it was an awesome game. There's a couple of SCP things in the 40k universe here that I want to take a look at here, and this one is by the Exploring series. Can the SCP Foundation take on the 40k universe? And it's an interesting topic because it's something that had been, me and the boys have kind of discussed a little bit, going back and forth. And, the 40k universe is always one of those universes where, like, everything you can think of has pretty much been done in the 40k universe, but it's also been, like, cranked up on a scale of 1 to 10 to, like, 20. You know what I mean? Like, the 40k universe is a universe of extremes. But that being said, there's also a lot of crazy stuff in the SCP universe as well. So it'd be interesting to see, like, honestly, reality benders versus Primarchs and all that kind of stuff. Who would come out on top? Would, et cetera, et cetera. Chaos Gods versus, the Scarlet King, things like that. So I'm interested to see if that's what he's gonna, cover in this video or not. But anyway, so yeah, this is gonna be SCP, or the Exploring series. Can the SCP Foundation take on the 40k universe? Links will be down below in the description to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring series channel. Please do me a favor, click those links. If you enjoy this video when we go through it, go give it a like. And if you're not already subscribed to the Exploring series and you're enjoying the man's content, you should definitely go over there and give him a sub. He makes a lot of great content for the SCP universe as well as others. I'm probably going to check out some of his 40k content as well. There's in particular a video he did on the Primarchs that I'm just curious to watch and see what he has to say and what his takes are on them. So we're probably going to be doing that in the near future. But yeah, if you want to come and join us as we do these reactions live, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. Check them out if you would like to. You can get early access on videos. You can get priority to any kind of reaction requests you might have, your name at the end of the videos and the credits, the sub Discord channel, all that kind of stuff. So just take a look at it if you have any interest, if you decide you'd like to take your support for the channel to the next level. But with all that said, let's jump into the video.
Can the SCP Foundation take on the 40k universe? The SCP Foundation prides itself on being the foremost protector of humanity from the countless threats presented by various anomalous forces.
True.
From six-sided dice that occasionally come up 7, to cosmic abominations hell-bent on the annihilation of mankind, the Foundation excels at anomalous research, containment, and, if necessary, neutralization. They've even come across various other sapient species across different planets, universes, and dimensions. What would happen, however, if they encountered a universe containing not only quadrillions and quadrillions of humans, but a countless number of aliens as well?
Yep, and gods,
not only would
chaos,
the Foundation be hopelessly outnumbered, they'd also be laughably outgunned in practically every way. The answer to the title question seems like a simple, resounding no. But, of course, anomalies are anything but simple.
See? Yeah, that's true.
Let's first begin with a quick disclaimer about canon. The canon of the 40k universe is more or less set in stone.
Yeah.
With published materials and... It's
not as fluid as the SCP universe is with, there being different canons in different universes, etc., etc. It's pretty straightforward, with occasional retcons and rewritings.
Information being fairly clearly controlled by its creators. The canon of the SCP universe is far more loose, however, with essentially the entire thing being fan fiction. To make things somewhat fair, we'll be going simply based off of SCP articles themselves, not really delving into tales or alternate canons such as Ad Astra per Aspera.
Gotcha. Okay.
In addition, I'll be focusing on the general image of the Foundation that most people think of when thinking of the Foundation. This is a bit more nebulous to define, but things like fleets of space-faring vessels are certainly off the table.
Yeah, they don't really have
Next,
that in the
we need to
SCP.
decide how exactly these two universes are coming into contact, as the SCP Foundation, by and large, takes place in the modern day.
Yeah.
So there's a few tens of thousands of years between the two.
Yeah, not to mention the extremely advanced technology. The question that I would have is like, are any of there's some mobile task force that the SCP have that are quite powerful, and some are resistant, you know, to reality benders and things like that. So it's like, would there be a mobile task force team that they could put together that would be able to compete with a squad of, like, you know, Space Marines and Psychers and things like that? Maybe, like I said, because there are people who are resistant to reality bending stuff, so I would think that would make them resistant to Psychers. They also have reality anchoring technology, so perhaps that would be able to nullify any kind of things that Psychers could do, which would take them off the board in general. They also have, of course, their own reality benders if they were to add those into the mix, and I believe there are some mobile task force you know, soldiers that are reality benders, etc., etc. But I guess the question would really be like, skill, strength, power wise, could any individual from a mobile task force one-on-one be able to really take on, you know, a Space Marine, let alone a Custodes, let alone a Primarch? You know what I mean? I don't know. That would be a pretty tall task. I don't think it would be impossible, but and it would probably be very situational, but it would be a tall task.
An SCP Foundation that's had 40,000 years to develop is a far different organization than the one we're familiar with.
Yeah.
So we'll save that concept for an intrepid author.
Not to mention super soldiers bred specifically for war.
The most likely way the two would come into contact is through some sort of extra-dimensional portal then. And there's
some kind of portal in the warp that would open up to our reality. Essentially, I could see that basically being what would happen. Or, yeah, something along those lines.
There's, of course, a big difference depending on which side first detects the other.
Yep. Surprise would be a big thing.
Every species on the 40K side, assuming they noticed the portal, would likely investigate it and travel through.
The thing is, though, from what I mean, I think even contingents of Space Marines and things like that, were they to discover like modern day Earth, they would still be like, hey, these are humans down here, what's going on? They would investigate, find out what's going on, probably come down and actually try to talk to people before things really got hostile. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't just immediately like, oh, a planet, invade and kill.
Most of the species would do this without a second thought.
Because like in the 40K universe, when, you know, the Imperium sees other, you know, lost, quote unquote, lost worlds that are, you know, human worlds, they generally try to find a peaceful means of folding them into the Imperium before any kind of actual armed conflict happens.
Such as orcs, Tyranids, and the forces of chaos. The more cautious species, such as the Imperium of Mankind, or the Eldar, or the Tau, would likely travel through after determining that it wasn't some sort of trap laid out by an enemy, or some sort of twisted warp anomaly.
Yeah, the Tyranids and the orcs would just be like,
as
fuck
mentioned,
it,
the SCP Foundation and all of the United Forces of Earth would never be able to hold off any force from the 40K universe for any length of time, based purely on numbers and technological might. The best case in this scenario is that Earth is encountered by the Tau, who merely add the population of Earth into their empire. This would be a massive boon to Earth's population, assuming
probably
the
in
Foundation
technological
doesn't blow
advancement.
the arrangement by trying to resist with anomalies. The worst case is, of course, Earth being encountered by the really dark forces of 40K, such as
Drakari, the
Dark
Tyranids,
Eldar, or the forces of Chaos,
yeah,
where death
chaos
would actually be a pleasant alternative.
Yeah.
In most situations, then, humanity is either
Necrons.
dead or worse. But things get a bit more interesting if the Imperium of Mankind encounters them. The general policy for the Imperium encountering a primitive, uncontacted human world, like this one, would be similar to the Tau, meaning that the people would be told to join the Imperium or face the consequences.
Like I said, they'd try to find a way to fold them in
wouldn't
peacefully.
be that different. time portals aside, as the Earth the SCP Foundation inhabits is certainly a primitive one, with no reliable means of spaceflight, no large-scale energy generation, nothing big enough to destroy a planet, and a population only numbering in the billions. The geography of Earth would be unrecognizable to anyone in the Imperium, and although Imperial historians would likely make a connection between their Terra and this Earth, it's hard to say what value it would have to them specifically.
True.
Assuming they deemed the population of Earth to be free of any sort of chaos taint, they would bring some ships over as a show of force and intimidate the population into joining the Imperium, while priests of the Imperial cult would begin enlightening the populace on the glory of the Emperor of mankind. There is no situation here where the militaries of Earth could even begin to fight back.
Not really, other than potentially with nuclear weapons. But even then, I would think, like, if you're talking about them having ships in space, even then, their, like, void shields would probably be able to nullify any kind of nuclear blasts, you know, so.
SCP Foundation, ignoring anomalies, have much less military might than that. So, in practically every scenario in which a faction of the 40K universe discovers this portal connecting the two dimensions, the population of Earth are either conscripted, killed, or worse.
Yeah.
If we ignore the Foundation resorting to anomalies for the moment.
Which they would have to do.
On the flip side, if the Foundation discovers this portal first, things can go a little better for them.
I feel like if the SCP were to find the portal first, they would obviously probably send things through to, like, look at it. But I think eventually they would try to find a way to simply shut it. Like, if they could find a way to close the portal and keep things from coming in and out, and then monitor it, you know, wherever the portal happened to open up, wormhole, whatever you want to call it, you know, I think that would probably be what they would try to do instead of, because again, they don't have the manpower to invade a whole other universe, right? They just send Mobile Task Force in to look, see what's going on, and if there's any kind of, I guess, technology or points of interest that they want to study and learn from it. Beyond that, they don't seem to want to, like, set up other bases and other realities, at least not that I know of.
As they'll certainly be able to launch space probes and drones through to check out the other side.
Right.
Depending on time and distance, this could either be highly illuminating or practically useless. There are certainly SCPs and various canons in which the SCP Foundation does possess faster-than-light travel, so if we accept that as a possibility, it's reasonable to assume that they could get a good look at any number of 40K factions. Discovering a random hive planet of the Imperium is a lot different than discovering Holy Terra, though, and it's difficult to say how much they could learn from such remote distances.
You know, a biomass planet from the Terrans, or Tomb World from the Necrons.
Time to freely research, it's likely that they would attempt to make contact with the Imperium. The ramifications of such contact could range wildly, as it's just as likely the Imperium finds the portal and heads through as it is that the message the Foundation sends simply gets filed away somewhere and lost.
Yeah.
Overall, the Foundation finding the portal first is a far better outcome for them.
Yeah.
As they rarely meddle too much with other dimensions.
Like I said, they would try to find it and shut it, more than likely,
Let's
after
look at the
seeing
most
what's on the other
interesting
side.
Scenario then, in which a hostile force from the 40K universe discovers the Foundation's Earth, and the Foundation decides to fight back by utilizing anomalies.
Which is the only option they'd really have of winning.
We can rule out practically any singular entity that the Foundation has contained, even if they all manage to work together. These are anomalies like SCP-173, the Statue, SCP-049, the Plague Doctor, or SCP-096, the Shy Guy. Even anomalies that are known for their difficulty to contain and their capacity for violence, such as SCP-076, Abel, or SCP-058, the Heart of Darkness.
I don't know, Abel and Cain might be able to do something, right? Because, like, Abel can't really die. And I don't know if Cain necessarily can either. So I don't know, maybe they would have a chance against, you know, some of the other, again, like Space Marines, maybe Custodies. I guess the question would be is like Primarchs though too, like, and is the Emperor around in the scenario? Because I don't think almost, I don't know if there's really any anomalies, even, you know, perhaps Scarlet King wise, that might be able to, I don't know. I don't know exactly how the power stands up, because to my understanding, you know, the Emperor is essentially immune to the Chaos Taint. He's conversed with and stood against the Chaos Gods and has shown that he can't be overtaken. He's immune to them, and his psychic, you know, powers are beyond comprehension. So it could very well be possible that even something like the Scarlet King wouldn't be able to, like, really, like, the Emperor would probably be able to seal it away, or maybe even, you know, just scatter its essence completely. You know, I don't know. So if, like, the Emperor gets involved too, like, that's again like bringing a whole other power scale to this situation.
Wouldn't fare well against a squad of Space Marines armed with bolters and chainswords.
Yeah.
The Imperium has spent thousands of years destroying monstrous anomalies with an efficacy that would make the global occult coalition blush.
Yeah.
So we have to assume that if the Foundation can contain it, the Imperium can at least do the same, if not destroy them. Other factions likely wouldn't have any trouble either, and that's not even looking at the problem of the Foundation actually controlling these monsters and using them to fend off an invasion.
Right.
One interesting interaction to consider, though, would be between SCP-682, the hard-to-destroy reptile, and the Tyranids, as they share some similarities.
That would be an interesting
Both
scenario.
entities are interested in little beyond consumption, and also have a tendency to reactively evolve based on their circumstances.
I feel like eventually 682 would somehow get absorbed into the Tyranid hive mind and be overtaken, right? Because I think the like one factor of it is like how resistant would 682 be to any kind of psychic interference. I think there's already been some other tales of 682 involved where reality bending stuff was like able to mess with him or get him to question things or even help contain him in certain ways. So, and you know, the hive mind of the Tyranid is an extremely powerful psychic connection. So I feel like eventually 682 would end up being overwhelmed and taken over and would probably just become part of the Tyranid hive mind. Maybe. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know.
Chances are that the Tyranids would manage to consume and subsume 682, but the reptile has displayed an absolutely incredible degree of adaptation, so likely no matter what, such an interaction would be bad for the Foundation.
Very true.
Any other situation involving 682 and a hostile faction would be a moot point, as it certainly wouldn't care to help the Foundation.
Yeah.
And even if they could control it, it can't prevent wide-scale destruction.
Yeah.
It
would basically just be used as like, hey, we need to get the fuck out of there, release 682 and use them as a distraction. Hold things off for a minute. Like, just throw them at them and let them fight for a while. Let them fight.
Might have some use are humanoid reality benders.
Yeah.
Such as SCP-343, God, SCP-239, the Witch Child, or SCP-4051, your friendly neighborhood Keter, who, while not being a reality bender, could accomplish similar feats. Theoretically, any of them could, at minimum, simply remove the portal connecting the two universes,
right,
and at most, delete the entire 40K universe.
And I feel like closing the portal, removing the portal, whatever you want to call it, would end up being what would happen.
Whether or not this could actually happen is impossible to say, as we simply don't have a great deal of information about any of their capabilities.
True.
Unfortunately for the Foundation, however, reality benders typically have limits to their powers, and it's unlikely that any of them exist that could stop a full-scale invasion, as there's simply too many variables.
Or wipe out a universe. Not to mention, you know, again, the Chaos Gods and the kind of abilities and powers they have. Put any kind of reality bender in the SCP universe, you know, wipe out any of the Chaos factions, let alone the universe itself. I feel like eventually they would end up being overtaken by Chaos. That's just what I would think would happen, and they would just become, you know, greater demons of chaos.
Reality benders in the Foundation's universe are generally ranked by their power, and it's not a simple matter of, well, if they can bend reality, they can do anything they want.
Yeah.
Almost no entity in the Foundation's history has been shown to actually be capable of such a thing, and there's practically no guarantee that such a powerful entity would even be interested in helping humanity.
The only being that I can think of that I know of that would be kind of reality bender-ish is that, like, doctor that got turned into that, like, black hole being in the Cactus verse, you know, in the Ouroboros cycle stuff that was talked about. You know, he's like a manifestation of, like, gravity or something itself. So, like, he would probably be a pretty powerful weapon against anything. More than likely would be able to destroy ships, fleets. He's even, you know, said that he was trying to destroy, that he had the ability to destroy other universes, you know, to just contain one universe, you know, alive, the current one, kind of a situation. So he would potentially have the power and ability to destroy the 40K universe, maybe.
SCP-3812, a voice behind me, is often said to be the strongest SCP in existence, and could absolutely end the entire 40K universe on a whim, since it exists on a higher level of reality.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the Foundation has no way to control it,
Yeah.
and it has no interest in meddling with...
The Foundation doesn't have a way to control it, and that being in and of himself doesn't even know what reality is. Like, he's like so beyond what he still like has a human mind, but is like so beyond what our reality and existence is that he's gone mad because he doesn't know what existence and reality is in his existence. You know what I'm saying?
Lower realities. That brings us to discussing the various gods of the SCP universe and what they might be capable of, such as the Scarlet King or Mechane. Obviously, the problem with practically all of these is that they either are not in a position at any given time to launch any sort of counterattack, or they have no interest specifically in protecting mankind. Sure, maybe the Foundation could come up with some sort of plan where they can awaken the Scarlet King, perhaps by letting SCP-231-7 give birth, but that would at best wipe out humanity along with the 40K invaders.
Right.
One potential exception is SCP-3125, the Cosmic Starfish, who annihilates anyone who becomes aware of its existence.
That's true.
If the Foundation could somehow propagate knowledge of 3125 to their attackers without compromising humanity, it could be an easy win. But that, of course, is fairly tricky. The grand majority of anomalies are of...
Again, another question would be, like, even at a level, like, he could probably, like, regular Chaos minions and things like that, probably. But, like, the Chaos Gods themselves, even if they know about them. And Tzeentch is, like, all-knowing, so technically, Tzeentch would already know about it, right? So, like, the question would be, would they even still be able to truly be destroyed by it? Like, would any of the Chaos Gods be able to actually still be destroyed by, you know, that star being? I don't know. I feel like no, but who knows?
No use to the Foundation in a war, either being effectively useless or actively harmful to both sides. The Foundation does have access to some anomalous weapons, and certainly the Global Occult Coalition does as well.
I feel like a good weapon they could release would be 610. If they could just throw 610 in that universe, it would be able to do some damage. It might, though, eventually get, like, absorbed by Nurgle and, like, because that's basically kind of like what Nurgle does, is, you know, creates all kinds of various pestilences and, you know, viruses and all kinds of, you know, stuff like that. So it wouldn't affect necessarily some of the minions of chaos, and Nurgle, I think, would eventually like take it, consume it, and make it part of his own thing. But for a time, it would probably be able to hold off some of the factions.
But using them to any great effect while avoiding too many casualties on their side is hard to say. SCP-2399 is a massive mechanical complex on Jupiter, capable of carving a tremendous gash across an entire countryside. But even if the Foundation could somehow control it, the collateral damage that it would cause in the process would likely be too great.
Yep.
It's no good to destroy the planet just to stop the Imperium, unless there was a way to restore it. Which
SCP-2000.
it just so happens that there is. SCP-2000 is a large compound located underneath Yellowstone that is capable of recreating the population of the Earth.
So, I mean, yeah, they could do a situation like, hey, we're going to wipe out Earth so that these guys leave us alone and think that there's nothing here, no use for us. They leave, SCP-2000 gets activated, they reboot humanity, everyone goes on about their lives.
And more or less restoring it to the way it was. There are limits, though. And if the planet is damaged too greatly or made unlivable for whatever reason, say if the Imperium drops a virus bomb
virus bombs,
or the Eldar bombard it into oblivion, SCP-2000 isn't bringing humanity back from that.
Or if the Tyranids end up, you know, consuming the planet,
and purposefully kill
or
off
even
humanity
making it a biomass
in order
planet,
to let their invaders move on, and then use SCP-2000 to restore everything, but I imagine that that would be a pretty last resort. SCP-1968, on the other hand, could be used to completely rewrite the history of the universe, but again, that's a pretty last resort. There are a number of very harmful diseases that the Foundation could potentially throw at some invaders, such as SCP-610, the Flesh That Hates, SCP-217, the Clockwork Virus, or even good old-fashioned SCP-008, the Zombie Plague. The problem, though, is that there's no guarantee those would have any effect on any species aside from humans, and the Imperium of Mankind has a good amount of experience in dealing with strange, horrific diseases.
Very true.
It's unlikely that any disease the Foundation could throw at them would be anything worse than what Nurgle could come up with.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. And I mean, it's like I said, like, the problem is like everything in the 40K universe is already like cranked up beyond maximum. So like anything you could throw at it, they've already dealt with and worse.
Not to mention the logistical problems of actually infecting an entire space fleet. The Foundation does have access to and can create lethal mental diseases, also known as cognitohazards.
Yeah, cognitohazards
can potentially kill on sight,
mimetic things.
But it's again a logistical problem. How can the Foundation display enough cognitohazards to protect the entire planet, and what's to stop the enemy from simply nuking everything? As for digital cognitohazards, no faction in 40K is going to have computer systems that the Foundation could hack into, not even the Imperium.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the technology will be so much more advanced, not to mention there's going to be Mechanicus on board around anywhere, so like any kind of intrusion would be found out and the Mechanicus would wipe them.
If only due to the vast differences.
Like, talk about cybersecurity, the Mechanicus got your back.
There are some more abstract ways that the Foundation could win, or at least stop the invasion. SCP-2140 is an image that, when viewed by an individual, retroactively changes history to make it so that that person is a loyal member of the Foundation.
Interesting.
Messing with time is rarely a good idea.
That would be interesting. Like having a mass fleet of the Imperium all of a sudden switch sides and think they're just a part of the Foundation and will fight and die for the Foundation, like literally using their own forces against them. That would be interesting. Again, I wonder how that would affect Psychers in the 40K universe.
and the amount of history that would have to change for inhabitants of the 40K universe to be loyal members of the Foundation is a bit mind-boggling, even when you're talking about the Imperium of mankind. Converting orcs or necrons to be Foundation members might just be a step too far.
True.
But you never know until you try.
Well, and I mean, when you're talking about necrons, you would have to get like an actual high-level necron, because the regular necron soldiers are pretty much just mindless robots, you know, from what I understand. So, like, the only way you would get any kind of force of necrons to do anything would be as if you got a higher level necron general, and then he, you know, commands his forces to do different things.
SCP-3856 is a man named Samuel Lloyd with a unique trait where if he dies before every other human in the universe he's in, a large-scale end-of-the-world scenario will be hastened along to make sure that everyone dies with him. If the Foundation can get him over to the 40K universe and kill him off, the ensuing scenario would almost certainly take care of their problems. Any scenario which would hastily kill off every human in the 40K universe is probably not great for any other faction either.
Probably not.
There is one rather unique way the Foundation could take care of their problem, assuming they're dealing with the Imperium, or at the very least make things quite a bit easier for them. SCP-6659 defines a god as an entity empowered by the belief of their followers, and I think it's pretty fair to say that the God Emperor of mankind is indeed a god by this definition. 6659 is a weapon created by the Foundation for the specific purpose of killing gods. It does this through a fairly complicated process.
See, the thing is, though, he is not technically at a god stage yet. Like, his spirit is, you know, his body is essentially still dying, barely being kept alive, and his spirit is still in the warp. So I guess it would be a question of, could this weapon target his soul, his spirit, and destroy it, thus him? Or would it be a situation where they would need to, like, force him in some scenario to actually go to the next level and become a god, you know, a new god of chaos, and then destroy him? I don't know.
Process, but it starts with a totem, a physical object conceptually associated with a specific deific entity. Pretty much every soldier in the Imperium is going to have something like that on them, so it shouldn't be too difficult to get. The machine then uses this totem to find the deity within the human noosphere, the collection of all human thoughts. This is where things would get pretty tricky, as this same concept of a noosphere could easily exist in the 40K universe, and there wouldn't be too much trouble. But the noosphere in the 40K universe could just be the warp.
Exactly.
And that would open up a whole bad ball of worms for the Foundation.
You'd be inviting essentially demon incursions into the SCP universe, like, directly. Like, Chaos would just immediately invade. And then you'd also have to deal with killing off Chaos gods.
The warp contains an imprint of every sentient being in the universe, and can be changed by collective thoughts and emotions. It's also said that the God Emperor exists as a presence in the warp thanks to the worship of the Imperium, much like deities in the Foundation universe's noosphere. If the Foundation can use 6659 to find the presence of the Emperor in the 40K noosphere, they could use it to essentially erase the ability for humans to recognize the God Emperor as a deity.
You know, another thing, potentially, they could also do the opposite. If they were to get enough information about the history of the 40K universe, and know that the Emperor doesn't want to be a god, and that the Imperium, the way it is in the present timeline, isn't what the Emperor wanted it to be, if they could figure out a way to use some kind of anomaly to heal the Emperor, and essentially bring his, you know, soul back into his body, and bring him back to life, that would do all kinds of, scenarios for the Imperium. The Emperor all of a sudden is back. He's going to make some changes. The church is going to be gone. There's probably going to be another civil war that the Imperium is going to have to deal with between those things. Maybe not. It could be, a very minor thing, but yeah, the God Emperor returning in full form would be interesting. So, and I also feel like it would be a situation where he would understand that this is the SCP, like the SCP universe is literally a different universe, and would probably have no interest in coming to our universe to do anything, right? Or maybe he would. Maybe it would be a situation where he's like, oh, this universe is free of the taint of chaos. Let's just fucking move there and be done with it. Maybe that would be a situation. But then, if that were to happen, why would they need to conquer Earth? Like, there would be no need necessarily for the Imperium. They could just have, like, humanity could just live and do, its thing and have their golden age of progress and all that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. It would be an interesting scenario to see what would happen if they decided to do the opposite and find a way to, like, heal the Emperor and bring him back.
More or less killing him. That's a mighty, mighty big if. Although the Foundation had quite a lot of success in using it to kill deities. Killing a deity worshipped by a few thousand people is quite a bit different than killing one
trillions
by quadrillions.
Yeah, if not quadrillions.
That brings us to the question of pataphysics, the concept of multiple layers of reality. It's generally accepted that the Foundation is aware that they are more or less a fictional universe, and that there are layers of realities above them on the stack of universes. A universe above another one can potentially influence it to some degree, such as the Foundation's universe being created by a bunch of horror writers. There are varying takes in various canons on how much influence the writers have over the Foundation's universe, but the Foundation has a pataphysics department to study this phenomenon, along with other pataphysical anomalies. This is a grasp on reality that completely eludes any member of the 40K universe.
True.
But it's questionable how useful that knowledge is. Most likely, the 40K universe and the Foundation universe...
Yeah, could they, like, essentially... Could someone in the SCP Foundation essentially, like, beseech their god, essentially the author of the story, and tell him just to write the 40K universe out of existence, Essentially, something along those lines.
Universe would be on the same level of the pataphysical stack, especially considering there's a portal connecting the two, and not something more pataphysical. The Foundation studies these anomalies and effects, but they don't have any massive control over their own universe thanks to this knowledge. If they did, there wouldn't be a whole lot of point in coming up with different containment methods, as they could simply rewrite their own narrative. They can't influence any reality above theirs either, as notably displayed in SCP-5999, where they tried to kill their creators through a lethal cognitohazard, which, of course, failed. Some people will likely bring up something like SCP-2747, a pataphysical anomaly that can annihilate fictional universes, but trying to introduce that to the 40K universe will almost certainly damn themselves in the process. This fictional battle is one that gets talked about somewhat commonly, and based on my observations, it seems that most people believe this to be an easy win for the SCP Foundation.
I don't think so.
The problem largely stems from the idea of canon, as mentioned.
Yeah.
The 40K universe is pretty clear, most of the time, on what a faction is capable of and what they aren't. The Foundation, on the other hand, has a pretty wide scale of possibilities, and much of it is quite vague. There are articles that make an offhand mention to the Foundation containing the Abrahamic God, a line meant to instill wonder and fear at their capabilities, but that doesn't necessarily mean they can win a war of any large scale.
Or would have interest in doing
cannons
so.
in which the Foundation has mastered faster than light travel and populated the galaxy, but that's not a general baseline for their capabilities. It's not really fair to...
And I kind of feel like the way the SCP universe is structured is that each canon, each story, whatever you want to say, is essentially just a part of the multiverse that is the SCP universe. The Cactus verse is its own reality that is separate from other SCP canons, etc., but they're all part of, you know, an SCP multiverse. So to me, like, all of these things exist in just some alternate reality of some sort. So I mean, the question then would be is like, what version, what reality of the SCP universe would the 40K universe connect to? Because there would be some that would be, you know, no contest for the 40K universe to wipe out. There would be some that would be somewhat difficult, and then there would be some where they probably wouldn't have a chance because of gods and reality benders and things like that being on a scale, you know, even beyond some of the stuff in the 40K universe. So
to take every single article as canon, as plenty of articles directly contradict each other.
Yeah.
Not only that, someone could easily just write an article in which the Foundation meets an extra-dimensional invading force and has a reality bender snap their fingers and they win, and it's just as canon as anything else.
Yeah.
The other issue that I often see in this discussion is that of logistics. I mentioned this a few times, and part of this issue is due to the specific nature of the battle that I've presented here, but the Foundation doesn't just naturally control every anomaly they have contained. They're contained for a reason, with many of
some allow themselves to be contained.
them more akin to forces of nature than any sort of controllable weapon.
Right.
Most anomalies they'd let loose would just as likely slaughter humanity than it would an army of orcs.
Yeah.
Going along with that is the collateral damage, as the Foundation is trying to actively save Earth. Honestly, the most likely scenario that would play out here is that the Foundation would be too hesitant to utilize a dangerous anomaly, and humanity would be wiped out before they pulled the trigger. The Foundation in general is pretty squeamish about using anomalies in hostile situations.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the ultimate plan would probably be, like I said, to in some kind of way enact some kind of end of the world scenario that wipes out humanity, make it look like the planet isn't worthwhile for anyone to come and invade or do anything with. They'll leave, have SCP-2000 repopulate and restart, you know, things. I feel like that might end up being the overall ultimate plan for what they would do. Because like you said, there's just like the Scarlet King is an entity that just wants to destroy like literally everything. So if you release the Scarlet King, yeah, it would probably wipe out the invaders, but it would also wipe out everything in this universe, and then would attempt to go into the 40K universe, try to wipe out everything there and become another thing for them to deal with. And who knows, you know, if it would be able to, you know, releasing the deer, would it do anything? Again, it's an unknown quantity. It's not really something that you can control. You don't really understand it. You don't understand what it wants, what its needs, you know, essentially its motivations. You know, any other beings like that. And then, you know, again, like when you're comparing psychers to reality benders from the 40K universe to the SCP universe, most reality benders aren't as powerful as what psychers that are like most reality benders in the SCP universe aren't as trained in dealing with and being able to use their abilities as like librarians and psychers in the 40K universe. Like, you know, a librarian in any of the chapters in the 40K universe, you know, Grey Knights, whatever, they're have hundreds of years potentially of training dealing with other beings like Chaos that can mess with their minds and warp reality, etc., etc. So, you know, I don't think they would. I don't really think that any kind of reality benders in the SCP universe would be able to really overcome anything in the 40K universe. I think what would end up happening, and again, there's also the huge technological. There's a massive number difference, and there's a massive technological difference, and then the psycho / reality bender difference. I think the SCP universe would use, you know, reality anchor technology to probably cancel out any kind of psycho stuff. So that would put them on kind of an even board one way or the other. But then you still got to deal with, could any of, like, let's say there's an equal number. So it's just like a fleet of Ultramarines, you know, somehow gets sent through the warp into our reality and stumbles upon Earth in the SCP universe, and they end up in some kind of ground-based battle. You know, both sides have equal numbers. Is there, you know, any kind of mobile task force or mobile task forces is out there that have the capability to essentially wipe out any of the Space Marines? Essentially, could they, in hand-to-hand combat, keep up with them? Would any of the weapons that the SCP Foundation has, would they be able to do anything against the Ceramite armor, or even be able to hurt any, you know, of them, things like that? And then you're also talking about, do they have dreadnoughts and Titans in this fleet as well? Because, I mean, you know, Titans alone could wipe out all kinds of shit. So, I mean, there's so many different layers and levels of things to do this scenario. And I don't know. Again, I think it's, if there isn't some kind of super powerful deific being in the SCP universe that isn't able to essentially just like wipe out the 40K universe or just erase any of the invaders that came through, I don't really see the SCP Foundation winning. That's just my opinion. There's just the numbers disparity, the technology disparity, the training alone. You know, the Space Marines being genetically altered beings that are literally bred just for war. And then I guess that would be the other question, like, are they dealing with the fleet of Space Marines, or is it just the Astra Militarum? You know, if it's just other normal humans with, you know, 40K technology, that could be, you know, another, you know, big factor. Although lasgun still would be like crazy technology for anything that we would have, you know, currently in modern day time. They would be able to punch through anything we have, through tanks or anything. So I don't know. But anyway, I guess let's finish up this video here.
Or using them to benefit humanity at all. This is a very loaded discussion that could be talked about at length for hours and hours, depending on situations on both sides.
Yeah, there's a lot of different
Ultimately,
scenarios
like
that you'd
every
have to go
fictional
through.
battle discussion, it all comes down to how the writer wants to make it happen. In one situation, perhaps the forces of chaos quickly invade and spread throughout Earth, making any sort of wide-scale destruction on the Foundation's part infeasible without sacrificing the thing they're trying to save. In another situation, perhaps the Foundation senses the threat that the Imperium of Mankind poses, and they manage to use a high-level reality bender to toss them all back through the portal before closing it. It's an impossible discussion to have a definitive answer for, but I hope at the very least I've sparked some conversation. Perhaps then, if someone asks if the SCP Foundation can take on the 40K universe, it's best to just say, I think the answer's pretty obvious, and leave it at that.
All right. Well, there you go. That was Can the SCP Foundation Take on the 40K Universe by the Exploring series. Links, as always, will be down below in the description to the original video and channel. If you enjoyed this video of the Exploring series, please go over there and give it a like. And if you're not already subscribed to the Exploring series, please do me a favor, go over there and give him a sub. The man definitely deserves it, and he makes a lot of wonderful content. I pretty much already went through my thoughts, so I don't want to hash it, but yeah, I think overall the SCP Foundation, if some kind of, you know, portal or the warp opened up in our universe, right, and connected the 40K universe to our universe, or a universe in the SCP, you know, universe, whatever you want to say. If the SCP Foundation found it first, I really think they would probably just send a few probes through, see what's on the other side, and find some kind of way of closing it. Because again, they don't have the manpower or general interest of invading other universes. You know, they essentially just kind of research the general areas, see if there's anything of interest, any kind of technologies or whatever they might have, you know, to discover that they could learn from, yada yada. But I think in general, they would just try to shut the portal and then monitor whatever area it is just to make sure it doesn't happen again. But I think if they actually got invaded by any of the factions, the only real hope they would probably have, practically, would be to initiate themselves an end of the world scenario, and hope that any of these factions would then just find the planet worthless, passes by, and then use SCP-2000 to reinitiate, you know, life again. Because I don't think on like a conventional war, and just a conventional war means, I don't think there's any faction they'd be able to stand up to. They just don't have the manpower or the technology to be able to do so. And then when you get into the question of reality benders versus, you know, psychers and all those kind of things, you know, I mean, it comes to a level of scaling and who you're dealing with. Like, you know, are you getting if the chaos factions are involved, are you dealing with actual chaos gods? Are you dealing with some of the greater demons? Are you dealing with some of the demon primarchs? You know, like, would they, you know, and then when it comes to the Imperium, you know, are you dealing with any of the primarchs? You know, is Rute Gilliman there? Is Lionel Johnson there? Or, you know, what time is it that you're talking about? Are you talking about in, you know, during the Horus Heresy when when all the Primarchs are there and around, and are all the Primarchs, you know, a part of this situation? Is the Emperor there too? Because the Emperor is a being of incredible power. Essentially, you know, I feel like the Emperor is probably up there among the most powerful beings that the SCP would be able to deal with. So, like, I don't know. That's just a lot of different back and forth questions on which way things could go and how the scenarios would work out. And it's not to say I don't think the SCP Foundation, there's no chance they couldn't win. There's definitely like smart, sneaky tactics that they could do. Again, like you said, if they could figure out a way to use certain kinds of cognito hazards or info hazards or any kind of mimetic stuff, they could figure out some kind of way of spreading some kind of mass amnestics. If they could figure out some kind of way of controlling certain deities or beings to do things, then, you know, sure. And then, you know, there's also, you know, they have rituals that are able to contain gods, so maybe they could find out some kind of occult ways of even containing, you know, some of the chaos beings, gods or whatever, you know, that would enter the universe. You know, I mean, so there's a lot of variables that could come into play depending on how things go. I think overall, though, in the majority of situations, I feel like the 40K universe would win, but I do think that there are plenty of scenarios where the SCP universe could win. I would like to see, like I said, you know, a battle between like the best mobile task forces, like a couple of the best mobile task force squads that the SCP Foundation has, versus a couple of squads from, you know, the various Space Marines chapters, Ultramarines, maybe some Grey Knights, some Custodes, all those kind of things. You know, I would just want to see like how they would match up to each other in different combat scenarios. I know, I mean, because some of the mobile task force stuff, again, they have some reality bending, you know, task force, but again, against psychers, how would they compare? Would they be able to keep up with the psychers? Would the psychers be able to overwhelm them, or vice versa? Would they cancel each other out? Reality anchoring technology, would, you know, how would that work against psychers? And then physically, you know, would they be able to keep up with the Space Marines in any kind of, you know, way, in any kind of combat scenario? So I don't know, it would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see if anything, you know, how they would play out. But anyway, so again, that was can the SCP Foundation take on the 40k universe by the Exploring series. If you would like to join us when we do these reactions live, there is a link down in the description, as well as a join button underneath the video, to the YouTube memberships, tiers and benefits that I offer. You can get early access to videos, you can get priority in any kind of requests you might have for videos you want me to do. You can get your name at the end of the videos, sub Discord channel, all that kind of stuff. If you've been around for a while and you decide you want to take your support to for the channel to the next level, just take a look at those and see if any of that would have any interest for you. But regardless of all that, thank you guys very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you're at and whenever you're watching this. If you are, and you enjoyed this video, you know, consider leaving a like and a sub. It helps me and the channel grow. But again, thanks for watching. Hope you guys are having a good one. See you on the next.